what I'm going to show here is first the code. And I'll explain why this matters in just a moment. But I want you to see this line right here. And so where we are in the system is in our prompt processing file. And you can see here we have some functions. These are what are called boundary functions, where we're creating knowledge boundaries. And so you can see this one is when we're going to include training data, which would be referencing your knowledge and training data. We have this one up here, which is when we're going just to our knowledge base, ignoring training data. And this is the one I want to draw your attention to, which is when we're only going to training data, which means not referencing your assets at all. And this is the line right here that I want to highlight, which is an error message. And you can see we're not doing anything when we call this particular function. We're just immediately returning an error here. And so this is a fake error that I've created just for this demonstration. But you can imagine that errors like this could pop up all the time because some database is unavailable or we're getting a rate limit from some provider. OpenAI is down, whatever. Right? This is just a fake error. And so I'll go ahead and shrink this down now. And I'm going to come over to Storytell. And this is running on my local. This is, I wouldn't force an error when we're working with world knowledge, public knowledge in production. But I'm gonna go ahead and ask a question about this Batman data. So tell me about the motivations of Batman. And I have data, which I've uploaded, which should be able to answer this question. And based on the available information, Batman is a billionaire and his moral code dictates that he doesn't kill people. Okay, sounds good to me. But now what's going to happen is I'm going to come down here to our prompt bar and I'm going to switch to world knowledge, public knowledge. And I'm going to say, tell me what movies Batman has been in. And I don't have any data, right, for this. So I got to go to the world. And what's going to happen here is we just got this error. This is a test error that will appear when chatting with world knowledge exclusively. And so what this is showing is that I faked an error and we were able to see the error here. And the problem that this is fixing is one that many of us have encountered recently, where Storytell just appeared to be stuck. And it might say like processing prompt 25% or 57%. And what was happening there is we were having some type of an error, but we weren't communicating any feedback at all to the user. And I think this has probably impacted storytellers the most, especially if you had the MapReduce turned on, as that is still behind a preview flag and we're shaking the bugs out. But it's also happened in production. One of the things that we saw yesterday was that we were experiencing quota limitations with Google Gemini. And that's not a software bug necessarily. The way we handle it can always be improved, but that's just one of those things that can happen in production, and it might not hit everybody. You might make 10 requests within a 5-second period, and we get that quota error. But then maybe a minute later, only 3 people are using the system, and we're not getting a quota error. It's one of those hiccups that can happen in production. And the user would have just seen a message that it looked like it was hanging. And so now what will happen is they will see some information about whatever the error is that happened here. This is just a quick improvement. Following improvements are to get rid of this red box and then to humanize the errors. Sometimes these errors will be very technical and not as pretty as this test error that I have here. And so the too long didn't read is if something goes wrong processing a prompt, it won't just look stuck anymore. We'll have some sort of error message there, and we'll make those error messages more human-friendly going forward. That is the end of my demonstration. Would anybody like to ask any questions?
Aaron, one thing I want to do is just paraphrase what I'm hearing you say. So basically, what you're building here is the ability for us to show users errors. So we can think about this as like a more humane way for our company to work, where the user isn't just looking at some stuckness, they're getting communication back about what's going on. And you showed an example where when I try to chat with world knowledge, I get an error, which I don't think I would actually get the error when I try to chat with world knowledge, unless there was a specific thing where maybe I was asking for knowledge from my collection, but I had world knowledge turned on. And then the error could say, like, oh, you've got world knowledge turned on, but you're asking for something from your collection. So I think you're just showing the example of how we can show the user something that we couldn't show them before. Am I getting that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, the error is just a test.
Just
One
test, yeah.
example of how you may have experienced this just chatting with world knowledge would be when Gemini was giving us errors about the quota being reached yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
And that would have had something about the quota being exceeded here.